Now let's talk about those caught in the crossfire, the civilians. More than 1,000 have died. At least 2 million Ukrainians have fled their country. Russia has once again announced humanitarian corridors. They branch out of 5 major cities. Now, first things first, what is a humanitarian corridor? These are basically temporary demilitarized zones. Think of them as safe routes, roads where there will be no shelling, bombing or crossfire for a certain period of time. Humanitarian corridors are supposed to help those fleeing the war, also those bringing life-saving aid for the people trapped in the war. I'm talking about food, water, medical supplies, basically any kind of essential commodities. 5 humanitarian corridors / routes have been identified. They branch out of 5 cities, like I said, the capital Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv and Mariupol. All of these cities have come under heavy attack. A ceasefire is currently in place so that people can escape these cities and escape through safe routes. Where do these routes go? This is where the story becomes twisted. The previous corridors proposed by Russia mostly led to Russia or Belarus. The first corridor, for instance, went from Kiev to Russia via Belarus, this one. The second one, from Chernihiv to Russia, again via Belarus. Now, reports say those leaving Sumy or Mariupol had a choice. They could either go to Russia or to Ukrainian cities like Poltava and Zaporizhia. Kiev rejected these corridors, though.
Russian side has already sent us a letter with routes to Russia and Belarus only. I call on the Russian side to reverse to the previously agreed routes to allow Ukrainian and foreign citizens to leave for Europe.
Russia denied the allegation and insisted that it was up to the refugees to decide where they wanted to go.
This proposal doesn't have any demands about the citizens being sent necessarily to Russia into Russian territory. There is also evacuation offered towards Ukrainian cities to the west of Kyiv. And ultimately it will be the choice of the people themselves where they want to be evacuated to.
A new plan was drafted after this tussle. Another ceasefire was announced. It came into effect at 7 a.m. GMT, that's 12:30 p.m. IST today. What you see on your screen are Ukrainians leaving Sumy and a suburb of Kiev.
Many soldiers in my city, Russian soldiers, and killing people.
Они сейчас целенаправленно стреляют по жилым комплексам. Они уже не стреляют по объектам.
The question is, how long will these corridors remain safe? And I ask this because humanitarian corridors have previously come under attack. On the 5th of March, Russia announced a ceasefire in Mariupol. The two sides agreed to create humanitarian corridors, safe routes. The attempt failed. The same drill played out the next day. Russia says the Ukrainians are shelling their own people. Western experts point the finger at Russia, and they cite Syria. At the height of the civil war in Syria, remember, Russia would often offer humanitarian corridors, then allegedly break the ceasefire and attack those who are taking those safe routes out. This is the West's argument. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says humanitarian corridors are a part of Russian propaganda.
These are not people. There was an agreement on green corridors. Has it worked? What worked instead was Russian tanks, Russian mines. They even mined the road that it was agreed would be used to bring in food, medicines for children, for the people of Mariupol. They even destroy buses that are meant to evacuate people. At the same time, they open a tiny corridor leading to the occupied territory for a couple of dozen of people. Not so much to Russia as to their propaganda people, their TV cameras saying, look, who is saving people? Plain cynicism, plain propaganda.
French President Emmanuel Macron has accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of quote-unquote moral and political cynicism. Macron said he finds it intolerable that the humanitarian corridors are leading to Russia or Belarus. So far, almost 2 million people have left Ukraine. Most of them have gone to Belarus, Poland, Russia, Moldova, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, France, and other European Union countries. These refugees, some of them have arrived in France. They left behind their loved ones. Men have had to stay back to fight. Many mothers and grandmothers also decided to stay back.
My husband is not the only one who stayed in Odessa. There's also my family, my father, my mother, my grandmothers.
Just before what happened with my partner, we were preparing for our wedding, which was set for February 27th. With what happened, we were able to get married on February 24th, right before I left. That same night, I left.
As politicians battle it out over their version of history from bunkers, it's these people whose lives have been turned upside down by the war. Speaking of having lives turned upside down, WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.